Okay, bros and broskies, that is the original power steering box for that Dodge Monaco. At least it's the one that came in it when I purchased it. And I bought a new one because I thought this was too loose, but I think it's standard. So this one that's in the car now has blown out, I believe, that seal. So I'm just gonna try this one back in there again, see what happens. They're priced all over the board for remanufactured ones from $175 through Napa, through like 750 unavailable through O'Reilly. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'm going to try this one back in there because I like making things work. I like making things work cheap, and I like original stuff. So all that means I'll try putting this back in. And today it's 50 degrees warm in February here in Reno, so I'm gonna try to put that in, see how quick I can do it. Jacked the car up and cleaned that off with a little bit of gasoline so I can get at it. Probably gonna take that off and hopefully I can pull that out without having to take the rag joint apart, so I can pull the power steering box out. There are 3 giant bolts, 2 and 1 I think holding that to the car, and then the giant pitman arm on the output shaft needs to be pulled with the special pitman arm puller. That is a pitman arm puller. Look what made that go for 4 years and 100,000 miles. It worked. Old style pump return, which I had to adapt into something smaller to go into the return of the newer style pumps, like 66 or 7 later. The old style pumps had a giant 5/8 inch return right up here. It looks like I will have to loosen and pull back the steering wheel to get that to come out, because there's just not enough play to get this forward or to get that back far enough. That was not as hard as I thought, pulling the steering wheel. There are two bolts up near the cowl inside that loosen, and you just pull it back. And I didn't have to do 3 of the ones that I did in the back over there. Yep. So I like to clean things off so you don't get dirt and stuff that you're taking apart. So we're cleaning things. That's the pitman. It's got to be pulled off with the pitman puller, which is back there. And I've cleaned off a little bit. Here is the separation of the drive shaft into the steering box. There's a starter motor. And I got to do a bolt up in here and 2 bolts along the side there, and it should pull out as soon as I get this off of the steering arms. 3/4 break it loose with this baby. All 3 bolts are off, 1, 2, and that's just a nut with a stud for centering when you put it on. So it really got to pull back. So that has to come loose so you can pull it back far enough to get it off. The other bolt in here was a bolt. So this thing weighs about 30 pounds or more. It's heavy, but I'm gonna use a pitman to pull that off. I had one of these for my Roadrunner to pull this off, and that's what it's going to be. First I got to take that off, and then I can pop that off. Darn it, I was looking for this for all. I couldn't find it. It's the only thing that would take that big nut off. It's just a little bit bigger than 1 1/4. But I found it. The big crescent. Well, my brothers, I broke my phone, and it's Friday night, so it's like a week later, and I want to get back to this power steering box change so that we can drive this classic. There's that thingy. Let me get the car backed up and get some room. So it's not super cold. It's probably about high 30s or low 40s, but I don't want to get cold, so I'm setting myself up to be happy. Here we are in cinematic mode, but we got that we're going to put it back together. Most of them have a pin through here now. This is kind of cool. It just uses that that bolt to hold on to that. So I got to get this out. This is the old one, and it's all ready to come out. I just couldn't finish it. This is where it was leaking like a sieve. Blew it out probably from just too much use and too much high speed running of that pump. And old seals, or well, reman seals. It's about 4 years, 100,000 miles that seal lasted. I forget who rebuilt that thing. It's about $250, $300, something like that. So we're gonna lift this sucker out of here, off that one stud, and bring it down. It weighs a ton. And there is the other one sitting there. That was the one that I got in the car when I got the car. I thought it was bad, but I'm not so sure, so we're gonna try it. I'm gonna pull the starter motor because it's not easy to get this thing out. There's just not quite enough room here to here with this and the dipstick tube and that getting in the way piece. So we're going to take the 2 bolts and 2 electrical connections off that and see how the starter's looking. I have had this wrench since my 1970 Roadrunner in 82 to 90. I don't use it much, but it goes around the starter motor to get the 5-inch bolt because it is really hard to get to other ways. Really hard. Well, 2 bolts and 2 wires, and it kind of takes a long time because it's just tight in there. And that was a kind of a lock nut, a pinched lock nut, so that took a while. Anyway, yep. So check out my 100,000 miles on a used 440. Have no idea. Probably a motorhome. No, I think it was industrial because it has coolant style plugs. They're tapered cone. Those plugs are a little more unusual. Usually it's a flat crush washer. So this is what my dirty dirt thing looks like. 100,000 miles from 30 on the odo. The odometer said 30, so it's probably 130. It's probably now about 230 or 330 on this chassis. Who knows? That's a pretty leaky pump. I've tightened it a little bit, but it's not bad enough to cause drips. The old typical making it happen floor. There's going in. That's what it's going into. Gonna do a little maintenance on this one where I just grease up this, put a little, probably grease in there, maybe a little oil in this overrunning clutch, and a little grease, red grease in there, then put that cap back on it. While I'm here, I'm gonna change out that spark plug, which is 1 through 5, that is 7, and it's behind all this exhaust that I had to work out to be protected from the steering rag joint and then too much heat to that. So I built a heat protector, and then that plug is just really hard to get to. Usually you gotta jack up the car and come underneath from the back. So I'm gonna take it out and have a look at it and see what it's doing. It could use a cleaning. I have some that I've cleaned and gapped in the trunk. There we go. She's in and cranks down pretty tough. 3/4 bolts. Stud, bolt, bolt. FYI, so the splines in there is one keyway spline that the car was screwed up when I got it. They somehow jammed it over the keyway spline because it's not too hard to do it there. But there's also a key spline. I think there are 4 here. It could go one of 4 ways, but really only one, which will fit onto that. So don't screw that up. And it better not to screw that one up because, you know, that's not going to make it good. I have to swap the return line with the 2 O-rings. Those are pretty hard. I hope I have some O-rings I can use because it goes down. It's right there. My O-rings are at my shop. So reuse down to there. I spun the steering wheel 3.5 times and then back to the middle exactly, and so hopefully these will line up. There it is. Now I need the lock washer and the nut. So my phone died last night because it's new and the charger cables are different again. So here I am about 10:30 on Saturday, and I'm going to be putting that in and checking everything out. Well, I believe I'm nearly done. So I did a bunch of things while I was down here. I fixed those bolts. One nut was missing, so I put a lock nut on the back of another nut and tighten that all down, so that should stay. I will need to get in there and fix that flapper for cold weather starts. It broke off from a repair I did about 3 years ago, so that'll help cold starts. And then we come down under here and we're looking at what I finished up. Had to take that off so that I could get to the bolt on top. It's difficult because that bolt is starting to strip, so it's hard to get it in there, and it's difficult to get up there. This one's not as bad. Put on the wires, electrical, fixed up stuff in here, fixed that spark plug. So I think I'm done down here. We'll put it together and see what we got for starting and assist and power steering fluid, etc. Gonna have to add to that. Other than spilling all over the place because the belt wasn't on it and I overfilled it, so it's gonna be hard to see what's leaking. It's working fine.
Have your live monitoring agents to keep watch over your home 24/7. And if someone suspicious approaches,
Feels good.
Switching them during the meeting, call the police
So two things happened. I had the e-brake on just a little bit for a little while. That's why something smelled like it was burning. And the steering box is too tight. So it wants to keep going in the last direction you kind of left it and doesn't center really well. So I'm going to I'm going to loosen it up. What you do to loosen it up is that castle or that nut with the center screw. Someone must have over tightened it back in the day when this car was purchased by me. Whoever mechanicked on it was really not very good. So I put this back in, as you know, and I'm going to try to loosen that up. It looks like 7/8, and then it needs a screwdriver to back that thing off. So something's weird about that. I could only get it to go a quarter turn and it won't loosen up anymore and the nut's loose. So it's stuck, something's wrong, or I don't know something about it, but I could only back that screw out a little over a quarter turn and the nut is loose still. I'm gonna drive it and see what happens. Damn, I did it again. It runs pretty good on like 5 cylinders. 1, 2, 3 off. Yep. God, it runs okay. Wow. We'll stick these on. That's a little better. 1, 3, 5. Back on. Can't explain it, but after that drive, I can do, it seemed like I can just do one more quarter turn open. But it only goes back and forth like a quarter turn. So I think I got it one full half. It was quite a bit better. So that's gonna be perfect. I think I did it. It's good enough. There's my stuff. There's the shade. It's kind of a nice day here in Reno. It's been cold. It is now the end of February and it's pretty nice. So we're gonna go for a drive. Yep. Thumbs up for driving classic cars into the future.